Hey, what's up, everyone? Tom Brown, Executive Director of Operations here at Brewer Science. Welcome to the third part in this series, Three Pillars of Impact. In the first two episodes, we talked about courage to challenge, and then we talked about expect excellence. And this is the third one, empower others. So when we talk about empowering others, probably one of the great ways to think about it is you want a work team to be really productive, really effective, right? You want them working together. So the classic way you look at this is, a great example is a rowing team on a boat, right? And they got all their oars, and you got that person that stroke, and they're going through this pattern, and they're all in rhythm, and they're moving just fast down the river, and that is they're synced up, they're in time. It's just great to watch, right? They got the cadence, they got the rhythm, everybody's doing their part, and that's kind of your classic kind of leadership thing, is that leaders making sure they got the right people on the right spots on the oars, and they're all working together and keeping it going. But the big thing now is, right, you want to be empowered, especially today's generation. They want to know they contribute. And that's kind of how I was always brought up, is you want to have authority, you want to have responsibility, you want to own things. So what happens when you introduce them into that same picture of the people rowing the boat, right? And all of a sudden, hey, somebody wants to row faster. They got a sense of urgency, so they feel empowered to do it. Hey, we got to get there quicker. Let's go, guys, right? And it breaks up the teamwork. What happens when someone stops rowing? They want to talk about where we're going. Hey, honestly, I don't know if that's the right way to go or not, right? What if we go to the left a little bit? Well, again, that's going to be disruptive. So you see a lot of that with leaders today. They all talk a good game, right? They all say, oh yeah, we want to empower people. But when it comes down to it, that's a little bit more challenging than just saying, yeah, empower them, right? Because it can be disruptive to the rest of the team. So you got people that are, one, they're afraid of losing control. And then on the other side, it's what if no one's really in charge? How's it going to impact their end goal? So those are things we got to look at. Empowering others isn't as easy as it sounds, but man, it sure pays off when it's there. The little dictionary page, right? So I was looking at it and said, okay, what does empower mean, right? Well, it has kind of three definitions, right? One is to give power to. Okay, that makes sense. The second one is to give official authority. Okay, that makes sense as well. We don't do that a lot, but it's in our company we don't, but a lot of companies do that, right? You got to have that power, you got to have the authority. But the third one, that's the one that really struck home for me. It's to promote the self-actualization of influence of, right? So it's really talking about that self-actualization that came out of Maslow's hierarchy. And a lot of the people, Drucker and Stephen Covey, all these people talk about it. And it's like, how do you really bring out the most and influence others, right? That's what we want. We want somebody that's not just empowered to act. They don't just have the authority. We want people that are going to be influencing people, and they're going to grow, and they're going to do what they can on their self-actualization, on their journey. And we talked about journey in the last episode on Expect Excellence, right? And so we want to connect that in, and I think that one really fits in well with this empower others. So we got to make sure that in our own personal space, we had granted authority and we had granted power to some people in these work teams, but we didn't really connect that shared vision, and that kind of caused some issues. And so we got to have that connection. You got to have them tied together. And so we went through this world-class manufacturing program, and we put these work teams together, right? And then we worked to get a shared vision. So we made sure that every team with manufacturing and quality, and we had facilities, we had engineers on there, and then we'd star point out to other parts of the company. And we said, okay, this is what your team's responsible for. This is the ownership, and you can work within this. Great, you guys have it. And we challenged them, hey, you got to make improvements, right? We got to get better. We got this journey towards excellence, right? Not a goal, but this journey towards excellence. And we empowered them to do it. They even set up their own metrics. And every team has a different metric that they use of what they value. And the metric doesn't mean anything. It's just something to measure. But what it is are we seeing improvement? And every time we'd see it, hey, that metric's getting too high, they change it. They change the scale. They start measuring something else because it's about the progress they're making. It's not about the end result. But they own it. They set it up, and it's a great way. So we told them, hey, as long as you don't impact some other part of the company, you're free to change things, except for two cases, right? So again, as long as you talk to everybody and everybody's on board with it, you can make those changes unless it causes an issue with change control. So in our terminology, change control is when something might impact a product that goes to a customer, right? And if that happens, we got an entire process to go through that. We review it, we evaluate, we validate that there's no risk to the customer. And if there is, then we notify the customer. So we don't let them do that. They have to go through the process that exists already. And the other one we don't is capital purchases. Again, because we have a process, it has to be budgeted, right? And capital purchase is typically what we think of as equipment that has a pretty high dollar value. So there's a process for that, so they go through those processes. But if not, anything else, they can change what they want, they can improve what they want to make their life better. And man, when we did that, it was incredible, right? The confidence they had because they knew we trusted them, and we granted them the ability to go forward. Wow, it was empowering. And they really transformed our organization. Our quality improved dramatically. We eliminated waste across the company. And it didn't only result in just like more revenue business because our customers saw it. We actually were awarded these prestigious supplier awards. And hey, it was a great feeling, right, to have that celebrated. So while that's important to get those awards, right, everyone likes to be recognized. Man, we really saw this come to play with this recent COVID pandemic. Like a lot of the world, we had to make decisions, right? So students were sent home, did the virtual learning. We sent home 80% of our workforce, right? And they work from home. So often they went from being in the office every day to 80% of our people are working at home in their home office, basement, kitchen room, kitchen table, wherever they're at. And we still functioned. And the people that stayed here, that 20% was primarily our operations people. I mean, there was other people in the company, but really it was our organization. And the fact that we'd already went through these work teams, that we had already empowered them to make decisions. So no executive was at our company. Most of the directors weren't here. So really you're talking about frontline managers and supervisors were here with these work teams. So they owned it. They owned the situation and they made sure that our customer was never impacted because of those COVID activities or from limited personnel. And what was so great about this, it just didn't stop there and getting product out the door. We have these programs, we call them Waste Watchers. It's a Kaizen event. It's a continuous improvement event. And it's a way we kind of show that, hey, we've done these different improvements and we share them out for everybody. We celebrate them. We have funny videos. It's a good time. They moved it virtually. So they didn't stop it, said, well, hey, 80% of the people aren't here. We're just not going to do it anymore. No, they kept it going because they were empowered. They felt it was important. They wanted to share about it. So they went virtual. Did the same thing with a Gemba walk. Okay, a Gemba is Japanese for where the work happens, right? So it's basically how you work on the floor and you show the things you've done, and it's how we measure performance. So we talked before about some operational scores. We moved that virtually. So we have hundreds of people across our company all joining in from all different groups to see this. And during this whole time, with again, only 20% of the people in the facility, we improved our quality, we improved our performance, and we drove efficiencies. So empower others. It's the third pillar of impact, and it kind of makes sense, right? So the first time we worked on having that courage to challenge. Then the second one, we talked about expecting excellence in yourself and others. And the third one is really about empowering others, right? So they can feel that ownership and they can have that self-actualization to move us forward. So hope you enjoyed it. If you want to hear more about what Brewer Science does, go to our website. You can also see more of the Learning Lab videos. We'll have more of these out there. And if you want to read some of the things that I've put out there on leadership or growth or life, you can go to my blog. It's at beyondtoday.blog. And I want to thank everyone for joining us. And remember that empowering people is really the difference between surviving and excelling in today's world. And it's truly the type of essential employee that's going to be needed to be successful beyond today. Thank you, everyone.